Tanse, I'm Kitsellano. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. It has been 20 days since Michelle Ahenakew went missing from Big River First Nation in northern Saskatchewan. The 40-year-old was last seen on June 5th and was later reported missing on June 12th to police. Now the investigation has been handed over to Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes. Over the weekend, the family of Michelle Ahenakew searched by foot and by quad to try and find their loved one and asked members of the public to join in and help. Ahtahkakoop, Big River, Pelican Lake, and Witchican Lake First Nations have all provided their support for the family. Ahenakew was last seen in Big River First Nation on June 5th, and RCMP believe her disappearance is suspicious in nature. Ahenakew is 5'5", 150 pounds. She has brown eyes and long brown hair and has a scar over her left eye and a butterfly tattoo on her lower back. Ahenakew is also known to travel to Saskatoon, Ahtahkakoop Cree Nation, and Shell Lake. If anyone knows where Michelle Ahenakew is, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. In Manitoba, friends, family, and supporters came out to honor the memory of Ashley Murdoch as the one-year anniversary of her tragic death approaches. She was from the Fisher River and Jackhead First Nations, but was living in Winnipeg at the time of her murder. Murdoch's remains were found in a downtown Winnipeg apartment on the morning of July 5th, 2024, just the day before her 28th birthday. She was a mother of 3 children, and her dream was to one day become a nurse. Investigators found her body that was hidden in an apartment for more than a week before it was discovered by police. 5 people have since been arrested in connection to her murder. At the memorial walk this week, her mother said ongoing court hearings and investigations have been difficult to endure. She demands governments to increase financial and emotional supports to Indigenous families who are mourning for their loved ones who have been murdered.
And this is where I have to take it upon myself and do that GoFundMe page. I have to reach out like that now, and apparently there's supports out there. So where are they? That's where I'm asking. Bring help already. Stop this already. Stop the families that are survivors. They're hurting. They need help too.
To Quebec now, where the Mohawk of Kahnawake Council is hoping to have their traditional territory returned. They launched a campaign on Tuesday aimed at drawing awareness to their land claim grievances. The campaign, titled Still Ours, was announced this week in a press conference held in Delson, Quebec, not far from Kahnawake and on traditional Kahnawake territory. Delson is also one of the locations within their land grievance claim area. The Grand Chief of Kahnawake, Cody Diabo, says there is approximately 24,000 acres within the land claim grievance, south of the island of Montreal. He says it's a key part of the campaign to have the public understand the history of this land claim. The Mohawk Council of Kahnawake launched a website at KahnawakeLandBack.com to promote this awareness. The Grand Chief says the council is also setting up meetings with municipalities where land grievances occur. He says he has reached out to the federal government to address this issue in a meeting and hasn't received a response yet.
We're here to start promoting the education aspect of it. This isn't to be hostile in any way. It's just many wrongs were done in the past and they need to be corrected now. And we're not going to be sitting idly by anymore, waiting for the federal government to wave a wand and it's all going to be corrected. It starts on the ground.
This past Tuesday marks the one-year anniversary of the Eagle Gold Mine disaster that took place in central Yukon. The mine, owned by Victoria Gold, is on the traditional territory of the Nacho-Nayakdan First Nation near Mayo. On June 24, 2024, it experienced what is called a heap leach failure. The failure caused roughly 200 tons of cyanide contaminated ore to be released into the environment. The First Nation continues to call for a public inquiry into the matter. Victoria Gold was put into a court-ordered receivership after it failed to keep up with government-ordered cleanup work. Its receiver, Coopers plans to sell the mine and its assets by the end of the year. Territorial officials say an independent report on the causes behind the incident will be released sometime next week. Last Friday in Winnipeg, a sweat lodge was unveiled at the Archdiocese of St. Boniface to honor a grandfather rock on its grounds. The lodge was created in partnership with Elder Clayton Sandy and students from Murdoch Collegiate, and it's part of the church's efforts to build renewed relationships with the Indigenous community. APTN Sierra Bettens was at the ceremony and brings us this report.
This rock has been the centerpiece of the Archdiocese of St. Boniface Heritage Garden since it was gifted about a decade ago. But Archbishop Albert Legat says it took on a new meaning after a conversation with Elder Mary Cushane a few years ago.
She said, well, you know, in Native spirituality and of several First Nations peoples, the rock has a very, very spiritual, important value. And I asked her, well, tell me more about it.
It became a grandfather rock, and on Friday morning, a sweat lodge was unveiled to honor it. The project was spearheaded last summer after Legat met knowledge keeper Clayton Sandy from the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation.
And last July or August, he called me here and introduced me to the rock, and said that give me the history of the rock, and then asked if I had any ideas what we could do with it, and this is what I came up with.
Students from Murdoch Collegiate in Winnipeg built the lodge.
They did the measurements, and then I took them out to my sweat lodge just to look at the whole design.
The students also participated in the sweat, an experience Vice Principal Jordan Yvonne Moreau says was transformative.
This project was always more about learning than just learning about a sweat lodge. For us, and is about learning with and from each other, about learning how to connect, and about learning how we contribute to the community that we're part of.
Around the lodge, panels with teaching in English, French, Dakota, and Anishinaabe share the significance of the grandfather rock and the ceremony.
We call them grandfather rocks. We usually bring about 21 into the sweat lodge, and we heat them up for a couple of hours, and when that water hits that rocks, the grandfathers are giving up their lives to help us heal.
Legat says the Archdiocese has been working to meet the Truth and Reconciliation's 60th call to action. It calls on the Church to collaborate with Indigenous spiritual leaders to teach clergy to honor Indigenous spirituality, acknowledge the role the Church played in the residential school system, and prevent future harm.
We needed to apologize, not just the people who ran the residential schools, but as the Church in Canada, in our various dioceses, we needed to know and we needed to apologize to go forward.
Legat says the Archdiocese is also looking to transfer title to some of its land for elders to share teachings and hold ceremonies. Sandy says he's looking forward to continuing their partnership.
This is just part of that journey. And I think the more that we can get in front of people and provide our culture, our history, stories, it should be. It's all about building relationships, eh?
He encourages those in Winnipeg to visit the lodge at 151 Avenue de la Cathédrale. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A group of people from Mexico recently traveled to a First Nation in Ontario to teach people there how to conserve rainwater. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A Mexican delegation is visiting Nipissing First Nation in Ontario to help the community install a rainwater harvesting unit. As CTV's Eric Tashner reports, both groups are sharing valuable life lessons.
Many hands make light work to get the eaves troughs and pipes installed on this cabin. It's a rainwater harvesting unit, ready to go for the next rainfall.
It's really about building relationships across nations to achieve water resilience.
It will collect and store rain runoff from the roof for future use. Helping out with the build is a group of 13 people from 3 different communities from Mexico.
Tiene derecho de tener acceso al agua.
Just human access to water is a right. It's something that we need. It's a necessary thing to have.
Through a partnership funded by the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, they're here sharing their knowledge on water management.
Mexico has a very extensive experience with rainwater harvesting. Like Isla Urbana, which is the social enterprise in Mexico, has done over 40,000 systems.
This friendship between Nipissing First Nation and the Mexican delegation started back in 2023 as part of a pilot project. And in August that year, a group from the First Nation flew to Mexico.
This part of the world, we have an abundance of water, and usually we've taken that for granted.
Nipissing First Nation is hoping this project will be an example for other Indigenous communities in Ontario that are struggling to get access to clean water.
To not only combat some of these issues for other First Nations, but also to make us more resilient in the face of climate change.
This is the second rainwater harvesting system to be installed at the First Nation. The first was erected at the Nipissing Secondary School last year. And this partnership is one that all hope will last, to get more clean water to people who need it.
Conjunto que se está teniendo.
We're grateful for how well we've been received here in Canada.
Eric Tashner, CTV News, Nipissing First Nation.
Award-winning Métis visual artist, justice advocate, and environmentalist Christy Belcourt was recently given an honorary doctorate for her exceptional achievements in the arts and culture sector. Belcourt was one of 4 recipients of the honorary doctorate from the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, awarded on June 13th. The university says the doctorate recognizes truly remarkable Canadians who are leaving an indelible mark in the arts and culture sector in the country and around the world. Belcourt is best known for her paintings of plants and animals that use patterns that resemble Indigenous beadwork. Her works of art are showcased in galleries and exhibits across North America. Belcourt has also been a member of the Order of Canada since 2024. Part of her message to all of the arts graduates was, sensitivity is their strength.
Sensitivity and empathy is our strength. And this sensitivity makes us more prone to see injustices for what they are. As a Métis person whose ancestors and people have experienced displacement from colonization from our lands, government-mandated starvation, disease, residential schools, the injustice system, the child welfare system, and the ongoing epidemic of murdered and missing Indigenous people in these lands, I stand in solidarity with all oppressed people in the world, including in Palestine, the Congo, and Sudan.
Keeping Indigenous culture alive through art, CTV's Alison Bamford recently spoke with a couple of Indigenous artists to learn how they're reclaiming their culture.
Let's go with a blue.
Each bead, each color is picked with purpose.
These are my favorite ones to do.
Strung together from a good place.
Because our teaching is whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking while you're creating art or food for someone else. You have to feel good because what you're feeling is going to be gifted outwards.
Honey Constant Inglis learned to bead from the matriarchs in their family. The craft is the invisible string that's slowly mending the two-spirit artist.
Finding what makes me feel beautiful and pretty has helped me become more confident by saying I'm a two-spirit person, by saying I'm an Indigenous archaeologist.
I pick it up with the needle.
Azaria Tottenham didn't always embrace her Indigenous roots either. Growing up, her family hid that part of their identity.
They did it at any cost to avoid the fact that they were Indigenous and denied that a lot.
Today, each stitch brings the 20-year-old closer to her culture.
This was my very first piece of beadwork that I ever worked on. It's a reminder of where I started.
And how far she's come. Her artwork's been shared as far away as Spain and Panama.
Since reconnecting with culture, it's completely changed who I am. Like, I'm a whole new person in terms of where I feel like I have a place in the world.
For Constant, Inglis sharing their culture has taught them more about others.
In our language, we say Wugotuin, which is a natural teaching that we're all connected. We are more family than we are apart.
A big lesson learned from the tiniest of beads. Alison Bamford, CTV News on Treaty 6 territory.
We now want to tell you about this week's new web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, are you planning on celebrating Canada Day? Your answers are yes or no. Go to our website at www.aptnnews.ca/polls to have your say. First Nations people in Vancouver have called for the removal of a controversial street name for a number of years. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Fredericton 26 and Sun, Charlottetown 23. The Grand River 3, Kuujjuaq 5 and rain. Saquonay 16 and sun, Gaspé 20 and sun. 26 in Toronto and partly cloudy, Peterborough 25. Big Trout Lake sunny there and 15, Sioux Lookout 17. Puckatawagan 14 and sun, Thompson 14. Gimli 14, Barons River 13 and partly cloudy. Regina 16, Yorkton sunny there at 13. Stony Rapids 14, Uranium City 15 and sun. Showers in northern Alberta at Peace River 25, Fort McMurray 26. 30 in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge 27. Showers in Kamloops at 25, Campbell River 18. Fort Nelson 22, Smithers 20. 20 in Whitehorse, Beaver Creek 18 and rain. 23 in Wrigley, Watee 24. 20 in Palatuk, Colville Lake 22 and sun. Rain in Whale Cove at 16, Chesterfield 15. Arctic Bay 7 and Clyde River 7 as well and sunny. Joseph Trutch, BC's first Lieutenant Governor, is well known for enacting racist policies harmful to Indigenous people. Now, Vancouver City Council has voted unanimously to change the name of the Kitsellano Street bearing his name. CTV's Ben Milger has more.
Running north-south for 18 blocks, Trutch is a quiet tree-lined street in Kits. But the folks living here will soon have new addresses. The new street name is Chamusqueam Awesome and is legally in the traditional language of the Musqueam people. The English translation is Musqueam View, and both will appear on street signs.
There's a lot of people that are still upset, but we have to teach them. We have to teach them of the wrongdoing and the reasons why.
The street was named after Joseph Trutch, BC's first Lieutenant Governor, a man known for enacting racist policies harmful to Indigenous people. In an 1872 letter to the Prime Minister, he referred to utter savages living along the coast. He also reduced the size of some reserve lands by up to 91%.
I think it's a great renaming of a very controversial figure that caused a great deal of harm to the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people and Indigenous people throughout British Columbia.
Council voted unanimously in favor of the change, but not before some Trutch Street residents voiced concerns, primarily with the new name not being in English.
So there's no way for us to spell out our address if we're calling services. There's no way for us to input this on our cell phones, on our iPads, on our computers.
The city says it consulted with stakeholders, including first responders and Canada Post, and residents will be able to use the English translation of Musqueam View. The Musqueam Indian Band formally presented the name Chamusqueam Awesome as a gift to the city.
I look forward to keep moving and moving the bar slowly, baby steps, but we'll get there at the end of the day. So, thank you.
City staff will begin installing the new street signs on Friday. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Colorful, intriguing, sometimes even interactive, urban installations are popping up everywhere in our cities. We come across them at street corners, often without knowing their story. But in this case, we definitely recognize its Indigenous roots. APTN's Kim Sullivan has more.
Regarde le jaune vert, là, c'est gris.
Ouais, vraiment. For over a decade, Créos, a family-owned business in Quebec, promotes art and transforms public spaces into must-visit destinations.
On veut avoir puis créer des moments vraiment de réunion, que dans ce moment-là, on se concentre sur qu'est-ce qu'on vit, qu'est-ce qu'on voit, qu'est-ce qu'on entend, qu'est-ce qu'on sent.
In collaboration with an Indigenous creative team, their new urban installation offers a sensory journey through the forest. Julie Christina Pichet is at Atikamekw from Wimutashi and is one of the two creative artistic directors on the project.
Je suis vraiment fébrile aussi que les gens puissent le vivre l'expérience de s'asseoir et de voyager à travers les rêves des 6 saisons à Atikamekw.
Wedgie Kuninut, The 6 Seasons, came to life with the help of Dave Jennis from the Wolastoqiyik Washipikuk First Nation and in collaboration with artists Ryoma Awashish from Abedjuan, Etienne Thibault from Mastayache, and Serge Maheu. Its name, a combination of the first part of the word dreamcatcher in Atikamekw with the last part of the word in Wolastoqi. 6 giant dream catchers where, as Janice demonstrates, visitors are invited to settle in to trigger a one-of-a-kind sound and light experience.
On a une bande son pour chaque saison sur lequel on a travaillé avec un artiste de musique, Henu, qui s'appelle Etienne Thibault. À partir de nos visions de chaque saison, à partir de cette histoire-là, parce qu'on amène les gens en territoire, c'est ce qu'on veut.
Janice adds that these installations are an homage to the land and to our Indigenous identities.
Celui-là, il y avait beaucoup plus de billes, puis on était comme ouf.
To give life to these dreams, Janice and Pichet worked with partners like Créos, Houston First, and Init. Virginie Simon is Init's production manager.
C'est sûr que ce projet-là, on essayait au niveau des choix des matériaux de respecter aussi toute l'authenticité des cultures autochtones. Il n'était pas question de mettre de l'acier, du plastique. On est allé chercher le bois, on est allé chercher le cuir au niveau du tressage, la corde au niveau du tressage.
It was also important that the weaving technique be taught by an elder, a task Pichet's mom happily took on.
Donc, elle a transmis son savoir du tressage, par l'accrocher et le temps le processus de le faire aussi, c'est pas juste un travail avec un résultat final. Il y a une énergie à mettre quand on réfléchit, on pense à nos rêves, à nos souhaits.
Pour nous, c'était une expérience incroyable de pouvoir aller apprendre vraiment les techniques de tressage authentiques puis de quelqu'un de la communauté atikamekw.
A unique learning experience. That's what art is, and that is the ultimate goal of this installation.
Une installation comme qu'on vient de créer, tout le monde ensemble, permet cette curiosité-là, puis vraiment d'amener les gens à explorer, à se renseigner, à être, sans le savoir, s'éduquer sur certaines choses.
Like the notion that a dream catcher is more than a simple decoration.
C'est un objet symbolique, spirituel, traditionnel, très important dans notre culture. Et là, on lui redonne toute sa valeur. Ils vont peut-être avoir un petit peu plus de respect d'où viennent leurs capteurs. Est-ce qu'il a été fait par des Autochtones? Pour moi, ça, c'est important de faire réfléchir les gens puis qu'ils apprennent quelque chose à travers notre culture du capteur de rêve. Mirosquawin.
Each module represents one of the 6 Atikamekw seasons, from Sikon, pre-spring, to Pipon, winter.
J'espère que les gens vont être au rendez-vous, puis qu'on va faire aussi découvrir les Autochtones de l'Est au reste du pays, mais aussi aux États-Unis.
Wedgie Koninut is actually premiering in the United States this month and will come back to Quebec in the fall. Then, you may see this urban installation adorn a public space near you. Which one will be your favorite?
Une unité, c'est difficile de dire c'est laquelle la préférée. Presque impossible.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Montreal.
Such a cool story. Thank you, Kim. And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, hi miigwech masichokwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.